At a number 10 spot, we have the Yeti. In a recent discovery that has sparked a flurry of excitement among Twitter users, the footprints of a Yeti were found by Indian Army mountaineers near the Makulu base camp in Nepal. The footprints, which measured a staggering 32 inches, were photographed and then posted on Twitter, prompting people to speculate whether the expedition team was actually serious about their findings or they're conducting a trolling experiment on their followers. For those unfamiliar with the Yeti, it is the mysterious cousin of the Bigfoot, both part of the same extremely elusive family. The legend of hairy, oversized hominids lurking at the outer reaches of civilization has been around for centuries and is part of the folklore of several cultures. But could these footprints really be from the Yeti? And if Yetis are real, how could they have existed for so long without one clear HD photo? According to Daniel C. Taylor, author of Yeti, The Ecology of a Mystery, the footprints were most likely created by a bear and its cub, rather than a dinosaur-sized or mythical half-human creature. While the footprints in the photos appeared to lead into bushes, Mr. Taylor noted that he would expect to find a clear set of prints where the trail leads to. But this doesn't mean there's no Yeti. Mr. Taylor even listed 3 types of Yetis in his book. The first Yeti is the legend, much like Santa Claus. The second Yeti is the Yeti that lives inside of people, fueled by their need to be closer to nature. And the third and final Yeti is the one that actually made the footprints, the mama and her cub. At our number 9 spot, we have the Beer Hospital. Beer Hospital in Nepal has been providing free medical services to the abandoned, helpless, and poor patients. However, the hospital has been failing to ensure the safety and comfort of these patients. Patients like Bikash Thurisha, who is diagnosed with tuberculosis, and June Maya Bajul, who is diagnosed with breast infection, has been receiving free medical service at this hospital, but they have not been provided with proper rooms and beds. The hospital has allocated 26 beds for abandoned patients in the emergency ward, which is not sufficient for the number of patients being brought in daily by the police. Due to the lack of beds and human resources, the quality of treatment has been deteriorating rapidly, resulting in more than 50% of such patients succumbing to their diseases. And you know what that means? Some supernatural activity as well. On top of that, there are rumors that a notorious satanic cult operates inside of the hospital, in which they conduct dark rituals and human sacrifices in the basement. Visitors to the property constantly report different sorts of paranormal activity, and they mention apparitions, disembodied voices, and strange mists that seem to appear from nowhere. Number 8, Sundarjal Bang. Also considered the river that needs human sacrifice, this waterfall is probably not the best place to visit in Nepal. Sundarjal, a region located near the bustling city of Kathmandu, is known for its large river that provides drinking water to the city's inhabitants. However, despite its importance, the locals believe that the river is haunted and they refuse to go anywhere near it. The river flows through a lush jungle which is rumored to be home to many tormented spirits. According to the legend, the river has a thirst for human lives and takes the lives of those who come near it. Every year there are incidents where tourists and locals fall into the water and completely vanish. Some people believe that the spirits of those who died in the river still roam along the riversides. However, it's unclear whether these stories are true or they're just simply a developed folklore and people are just tripping over here. At our number 7 spot, we have Devghat. Devghat is a religious Hindu site located in Chitwan, also known as Aryaghat. However, a chilling incident on July 12, 2009 shook the town when the skull of a female was recovered from the region. And it was just the beginning, as the police began to recover numerous bones and skulls from the area after that. The situation got even stranger when locals started witnessing 4 old women visiting the spot every night to perform a dance ritual. The woman would set fire to themselves at midnight while performing, making it an eerie sight to behold. However, the discovery of human bones in this area is not new to locals, as Devghat is known as the land of cremation, and it is also considered a ceremonial site for black magic believers. In the past, skulls of various people were also reportedly removed from the spots, and nevertheless, the identity of these 4 old women still remains a mystery. Locals claim to see these 4 to 5 women apparitions approaching the river by night, and they appear to be dancing, but they're floating above the ground. But the most crazy thing about this is that they do this dance while completely engulfed in flames. Number 6, the Boki. Nepal legend says that witchcraft is widely practiced in remote areas of Nepal, except at this time, their witch description was far from accurate. Basically, any woman who had something bad to say or raised her voice at the patriarchy would be considered a witch or a Bokshi. The problem with the term Bokshi is that it has become so extreme that women are being murdered in the name of this specific ritual and are forced to become a ghost, where they will be lost and seen roaming around the streets looking for answers. Even to this day, people are getting accused of being witches. Am I being confused, or am I still living in the Salem witch trials still? Because why are people still believing in this stuff? In the hunt for a list, we have the Rabon. Many people know Rabon for their breathtaking views and incredible sceneries, but inside of this nature escape is hidden something very dark. Within the jungle of Rabon village, there is a gigantic tree looking straight out of a cartoon with its widespread and exposing roots. Except, take away the beauty from this tree and you might understand why locals avoid this specific tree altogether. Warning, the story is pretty explicit. Legend goes that several years ago, a man assaulted and murdered a girl right underneath this tree, and after some research, this turned out to be a true story and has a lot more disturbing details I can't even mention. However, after her death, people in the area started to hear noticeable crying coming from under the tree, but when they went to investigate, nothing was there. And to make this even more spookier, just days after, the man who murdered the girl was executed by hanging on the very same tree. So best believe there's more than one ghost sitting under this tree, and you should just probably avoid sitting here altogether. Number 4, Dow Hill. Located in northeastern region of Nepal, lies a forest that will make you feel scared and uncomfortable the entire hike. The forest known as Dow Hill is considered one of the most haunted spots in Nepal, and for good reason. Visitors to the forest have reported feeling a sense of being watched, almost as if eyes are following their every move. Some even claim to have catch glimpses of strange movements in their periphery, only to turn and find nothing there. However, the occurrences don't stop there. There has been reports of a screaming woman in the woods, and several visitors have claimed to see red eyes peeking at them from the trees above. But perhaps the most famous ghost sighting in Dow Hill is that of a headless boy who has been seen wandering through the forest and down a street known as Death Road. What a lovely name. Even the high school situated beside the woods is believed to be haunted as well. Many visitors claim to hear loud whispers coming from inside the lockers and footsteps during the closed months. So best believe not only the woods are haunted, but this whole entire area. Number 3, the ghost of Mount Everest. Being the tallest mountain in the entire world, people are bound to come in the thousands to conquer the challenge. However, with a fatality rate at 14%, many climbers have not been able to finish their trip, and their bodies still lay on this mountain due to a lot of safety issues in recovering them. So best believe after seeing these bodies and hearing the horrific stories, some ghost stories in Everest are bound to pop up. On your journey to the top, chances are you'll come across the 3,000 corpses that lie on the mountain to this day. One is a man only known as Green Boots, but his real name was Swang Paljor. Many climbers claim to see the apparition of a climber with green boots, encouraging them to push through it. Being at such an extreme height, many mountaineers suffer from altitude sickness and causes many to see vivid hallucinations, so this really isn't a surprise. But it's not hard to believe that there may be some ghosts lurking on this mountain still to this day. Number 2, the Royal Palace of Nepal. On June 1st, 2001, one of the worst royal massacres occurred at the Royal Palace of Nepal, including King Birendra and Queen Aishwarya. The culprit turned out to be the son and crown prince Dipendra, who was said to have opened fire on the palace grounds when a party was happening. He shot his own dad, mother, and his own siblings. He was appointed king, but only for a temporary time, as he was in a coma since the attack due to shooting himself. Shortly after this massacre, locals around the palace began to report sounds of screaming, shouting, and the most notorious sound that they could document was the sound of gunshots. They claimed that it was the gunshots from the massacre, and its haunting sounds are still trapped in this palace to this day. Number 1, the water tank of Deashi. Located in Deashi, Basundara, lies this innocently looking underground tank to store water around the community. Although this is necessary for any community and serves a benefit, many locals are actually too afraid to go anywhere near it. Of course, this doesn't mean they couldn't get water due to their fear. Instead, they would probably ask someone else to get it. But what could stop people from getting a basic necessity like water? Well, it all started with the sounds of crying, shouting, and other strange noises coming from inside of the tank. And it was said the sounds grew even louder by the nighttime. This is also the time where locals claim that they also see a spirit of a decomposing man standing nearby the tank. The legend says that a group of robbers mugged a man near the water tank, and instead of a quick theft, one of the men accidentally killed the man, or so they thought. Then they decided to put the man's body in this tank, but once they locked it, they could hear the man alive struggling for his life. Soon after, the man would pass and the robbers would eventually get caught. But just imagine that your drinking water used to have a decomposing body inside of it. Doesn't this remind anyone of Sisa Hotel? Anyone? At a number 10 spot, we have the Sugisawa, the cursed village. In Aoyama Prefecture, at the foot of a mountain, there was once a small village called Sugisawa. Story goes that one day a man who lived there went completely insane, and he did just that because within a single day, the entire population of the village was completely wiped out. After the incident, the local government made a decision to try and hide the incident, meanwhile erasing all sorts of evidence that the village ever existed. However, despite the efforts of the government, the story of Sugisawa has survived through the memories of the people who lived in the areas nearby. And according to the legend, there were 3 signs that revealed the path to this village: a warning sign on the road leading to the village, an old rotting shrine gate at the entrance of the village with a stone shaped like human skull beneath it, and an abandoned building with bloodstains on the walls. One particular story about the village involves 3 people who stumbled upon the village while driving up into the mountains. They saw the old beat up shrine gate with a stone shaped like a skull beneath it and decided to explore within the village. After passing under the shrine gate, they found 4 abandoned buildings. Inside one of the buildings, they found a large amount of dried blood on the walls. And then suddenly, the woman in the group felt a presence and they all fled in fear. And when they discovered her, she had pure white hair, and when more help was coming, the girl just suddenly vanished. The 2 men were also never found, and ever since, this place has become known as the most cursed village in all of Japan. At a number 9 spot, we have Gozu, or the cow head. Gozu, also known as the cow head, is a terrifying Japanese urban legend that has been around since the 17th century. The story goes that there is a creature with the body of a man and the head of a cow that can cause all sorts of supernatural and terrifying events simply by telling its story. And guess what I'm doing today? Telling the story. Legend has it that an entire village was traumatized by the tale and isolated themselves out of fear. The central government caught wind of the story, and fearing it would cause another mass panic, they banned any mention of Gozu. However, the story has still managed to spread throughout Japan. One tale tells of a school teacher who used Gozu to keep his students well behaved on a field trip. He promised to tell them the most mysterious and gloomy story he had ever told, but only if they all behaved well. When the teacher finally told the story, many of the students began to scream and cover their ears. But as if he didn't hear or see them, the man continued with his story. His eyes then turned white and his voice became much deeper than it was in the beginning of his story, as if he was possessed by the Gozu himself. The aftermath was a horrific scene. None of the students ever talked about what happened as they were too scared, and even they were confused by the events that just followed. Kinda sucks that I'm talking about Gozu since it's associated with bad luck, but hey, that's my job. I do it for you guys. Number 8, the corner game. The corner game, also known as the square or 4 corners game, is a popular urban legend game that originated in East Asia, more specifically in parts of Japan and or Korea. The whole purpose of the game is to summon a supernatural entity. So as you can tell, what a great game to play. The origin of the game is unclear, with some sources suggesting it is Korean while others believing it is based on a Japanese story. However, it doesn't really matter. The game requires an empty room and the players must turn off all the lights except for the ones in the room. The players must then stand in 4 corners of the room and face the corner. The speaker counts to 3 and each player moves clockwise to the next person's position. During the ritual, supernatural situations such as an extra person or a missing person are said to occur. If there is a missing person, the players must speak their name backwards 3 times and then put their backs against the wall. The person closest to the light should then turn it off and the missing person will reappear. If there is an extra person, the players must gather at the light switch and speak their names backwards 3 times again. After that, they should open the lights and leave the room without speaking to the extra person. And you might be asking, what happens if you speak to the extra person? Well, there's a slight chance you might pass away. So there's that. Have fun playing. At a number 7 spot, we have Yamanoke. In 2007, a creepy story called Yamanoke was posted on 2chan, which is a popular Japanese forum for those who don't know. And as soon as it got uploaded, it quickly gained notoriety all over the site. The story revolves around a white-bodied creature in the mountains that possesses a young girl, and her father is warned that if they don't save her within 49 days, she'll be lost forever. The creature is described as resembling Jamila from Ultraman, and it has since become an urban legend in Japan. And this creature looks like something else. It doesn't have a head, but instead one large human face with a broad grin straight across the chest. And oh yeah, it hops around on 1 leg. The story takes place in the mountains that border Miyazaki and Yamagata prefectures, particularly on Tashiro Ridge. This area is known for its strange events such as ghostly rumors, UFO sightings, and even a rumored underground military base. It's not surprising that a creature like the Yamanoke would fit right in with all these other oddities reported in this area. So what exactly is a Yamanake? Some people believe it could be an alien that frequently visits Toshio Ridge, but others think it's most likely a spirit or a kami. Kami are Japanese spirits that inhabit various natural elements, including mountains. They're often associated with Japanese folklore and mythology, and some people believe they have the power to possess humans. Number 6, the purple mirror. Back in the day, there was a young girl who was given a mirror by her mother. The girl loved the mirror so much that she spent most of her time staring at herself in it. She was so desperate to be beautiful that she did everything possible to maintain her beauty. And so every time she looked in the mirror, she felt gorgeous as a result of her hard work. However, after a few years, the girl decided to redecorate and painted the mirror purple. When she looked into it, she was shocked by her appearance. She was dangerously thin and her hair was limp and stringy. The obsessive beauty standards that she had put on herself had taken a toll on her body now, and now she could see that she was not maintaining her beauty. She was actually sabotaging it. The girl then threw the mirror on the ground, completely shattering it. Then a little while later, she was making the final arrangements for her coming of age party on her 20th birthday when she was caught in a freak car accident. People say that she perished on the scene while whispering, "Purple mirror, purple mirror, purple mirror." And after this was reported, her parents decided to search for this mirror, but they never ended up finding it. The legend has it that if you do not forget the phrase "purple mirror" by your 20th birthday, the same thing will happen to you. Or that if you have a purple mirror, just completely remove it out of your home. Just do it. In the hump of our list, we have Kyoko. Do you remember her? This was definitely a fear for 90% of y'all. The eerie humming sound combined with the black hair covering the face, early 2000s horror peak at its finest. As many of you know, Kyoko is a vengeful spirit who haunts those who enter her home. In the official novel written by Kei Ohishi and based on other Japanese iterations, she spent most of her time with her cat Kuro and was highly antisocial. Then in college, Kyoko met Kobayashi and fell deeply in love with him. She marries another one named Takio Saki, the only person who understands and cares for her during this hard time. As time goes by, Kyoko begins to have feelings for Kobayashi again, which she writes in her journal. Takio then discovers her journal and becomes obsessed with the idea that Kyoko is cheating on him with Kobayashi, or even worse, that their son Toshio might not actually be his. As a result, he violently attacks Kyoko, leaving her paralyzed and unable to move, before finally snapping her neck and crushing her throat. So painful and torturous that she becomes an Oliro, a vengeful spirit who haunts those who enter her home. And if you've seen the movies, you definitely don't want to enter her home at any cost because there's nothing good that comes out of it. Number 4, the Honeona. In Japanese mythology, the Honeona or bone woman is a spirit whose face, hands, and neck appear to be that of a young attractive female. However, the rest of her body bears no flesh at all. Hence, her bone name. It's said that she uses her beauty to seduce unsuspecting men, where she would lure them into a dark, isolated area. I bet these guys are thinking that they're the man, alone in Japan with a pretty girl. However, this is exactly what Honeona wants them to think. Because when they're alone, she reveals her true form and then sucks their life force energy, leaving them as a pile of dust. In other accounts, the Honeona are said to be spirits of a young woman who cannot move on from their past lovers. To their loved ones, they look normal, but for everyone else, they appear as the bone woman. Regardless of who is in front of them, they will suck up their life's energy, causing illness or all sorts of other tragedies in the process. I don't think I'll be ever falling in love with a pretty girl ever again, especially in Japan after seeing this one. Number 3, the ghost of the tsunami. The second season of the popular show Unsolved Mysteries has taken viewers to Ishinomaki, Miyagi, Japan, where a 9.1 magnitude earthquake followed by a powerful tsunami struck in March 2011. The survivors have struggled to cope with the disaster's aftermath, but the 4th episode of Unsolved Mysteries, titled Tsunami Spirits, uncovers the story of the victims themselves. Multiple people in the area reported supernatural encounters with ghosts who were looking to find their way home after the disaster. Sociology graduate student Yuka Kuru was writing a paper in the months after the tsunami struck, focused on the experience of taxi cab drivers in the region who were convinced that they had given rides to ghosts. Kudo spoke to more than 100 taxi cab drivers in the stricken area, and 7 were forthcoming with their experiences. The episode also features Reverend Taiyo Kanada, a Buddhist monk who worked with people who claimed to be possessed by the spirits from the tsunami. Richard Lloyd Perry, in his book Ghosts of the Tsunami, Death and Life in Japan's Disaster, summarized the experiences of Takashi Ono, who lived miles away from the tsunami but became possessed after driving to the beach to survey the devastation. The increased sightings of ghosts after the tsunami were theorized to be the result of PTSD, but it's just crazy to think that multiple people had similar experiences after this devastating event. It's probably ghosts. Number 2, the Kun Kun. The legend arose in Japan where sightings of a creature are reported in rice fields or in an open sea. The creature resembles a tall white mannequin made of fabric almost like an inflatable tube man. There's a story where one summer, two brothers decide to visit their grandparents in the countryside. They're playing outside when they notice a figure in the distance, wiggling in the wind. But when the wind stopped, the figure kept on wiggling. Curious, the older brother took binoculars to see the figure, but as he did, he stopped breathing and turned blue with sweat running down his entire body. The younger brother asked what he saw, and the older brother responded that, quote, "It's better not to know." But the voice that came out was not his brother's. Later that day, the older brother was found laughing uncontrollably, wiggling in the fields similar to the creature he saw earlier. The family was terrified and decided to leave the farm, but leave the older brother behind with the grandparents. But as the family was leaving, the little brother looked out at his window at his older brother in the field, and all he could see was his brother laughing with somewhat a sad smile on his face. And guess what? He was still wiggling. A little while after seeing this, the younger brother would begin to show symptoms of cold sweats and uncontrollable laughter. And as the family moved into the new house, the younger brother would end up in a field wiggling just like his brother. Number 1, the Peko Chan. Peko Chan is the mascot of the Milky Candies, but her story is more sour than sweet. The story goes that Peko Chan was actually based on a young girl who passed away during the 1940s. The legend goes that during World War II, there was a huge food shortage in Japan, and because of this, many people, including women and children, were starving to death. So Peko Chan's mother decided to cut a piece of her arm off and even offered it to Peko to eat. This is the moment where Peko Chan discovered how tasty human flesh was. In fact, she had never tasted anything so good in her life. She couldn't resist with just a piece, so she decided to kill her mom and eat her entire body. And ever since, she's been constantly craving human meat, living the rest of her days as a cannibal. In the logo, it said that she keeps her tongue out because she's licking her mother's blood off her cheeks. And if that wasn't enough, the company's slogan is directly translated to "Milky tastes like a mama." Guess I'm never eating these candies ever again, especially if I decide to visit Japan. Coming in at a number 10 spot, we have the elevator game. The elevator game is a mysterious and potentially dangerous ritual that is said to bring you to another world. This game has its origins in Japan and is played by entering an elevator in a public building with at least 10 floors. The player must press specific buttons in a specific order without anyone entering or even leaving the elevator in order to reach this other world. In the other world, electronics do not work, the lights are off, and all that can be seen from the windows is a red cross in the distance. To return back to the original world, the players must repeat the sequence of button presses and be very vigilant of their surroundings. The player must be careful not to look at the woman who enters the elevator on the 5th floor, as she is not human. If someone enters or even leaves the elevator during the ritual, the players must start over. And you must be wondering what the specific ritual is, but if you guys actually want to know about that, search it up, because I'm not going to say it for you guys because I don't want you guys doing this. Because for those who have played, it is said that if they faint or lose consciousness during the ritual, they may wake up in their own home. But they must be careful to examine their surroundings, as it may not be the same home they left. It is important to not attempt this ritual too many times as well, as it can lead to an accidental slipping between both worlds. And it's also worth mentioning that if the woman does not enter the elevator or the players do not reach the 10th floor, they should immediately return to the 1st floor and completely end the game. At a number 9 spot, we have the Rokuko Kubi, the long-necked demon. The legend of the Rokuko Kubi is a supernatural creature from Japanese mythology that originated during the Edo period, which is 1603 to 1867. The Rokuko Kubi is a beautiful woman by day, but at night she undergoes a metamorphosis where her neck extends and she begins to hunt. Some versions of this legend says that this creature can be recognized by small white marks on their neck, or even by the way they sleep with their head far from their body. But in reality, when I see photos of this, all I can think is, if they got a long neck, they're probably this creature. According to folklore, however, there are different explanations for the origin of this creature. Some believe they were once Buddhists who broke the religion's principles and were then cursed as punishment, while other people see the transformation as a supernatural expression of the person's desires. There are also legends that suggest they are Oni, which are these Japanese demons seeking revenge or even simply just playing tricks on humans. And it's also worth mentioning that this creature comes in many different forms, with female ones attacking men and male ones attacking women. The Nuke Kubi is one of the most dangerous forms, however, known for its detached head that just flies around and attacks its prey. At a number 8 spot, we have HTO Bashid. Hitobashira, also known as human pillars, is a custom of human sacrifice that was once practiced in Japan. It involved burying a victim alive under or near large-scale buildings such as dams, bridges, and castles. The practice was believed to appease the gods and protect the structure from natural disasters and enemy attacks. The tradition of human sacrifice in Japan dates back to the construction of aristocratic tombs in ancient times. The use of human pillars persisted in various parts of Japan until the 16th century. Legend has it that the Maruoka Castle, one of the oldest surviving castles in Japan, was built with the help of a human pillar named Oshizu. When the stone wall of the castle kept collapsing, a vassal suggested the use of a human sacrifice, Oshizu, who is this one-eyed woman living in poverty who volunteered to even become this human pillar in the first place. But she did this under one condition, and that one condition being that one of her sons was turned into a samurai. She was buried under the central pillar of the castle keep, and the construction was successfully completed. However, her son was not made a samurai, and thus her spirit has caused moat to overflow with spring rain every single year, and some people even report to see her ghost when they enter and visit this castle. As a result, people erected a small tomb to soothe her spirit, and a poem was even handed down about the rain caused by the tears of Oshizu's sorrow. It is speculated that the instability of the walls of the Maruoka Castle was due to the design of the castle in the first place, which is more indicative of earlier fortresses. On the other hand, the Matsu Castle is also rumored to have been constructed on human sacrifice, buried under the castle stone walls. The victim was a beautiful young maiden who was fond of dancing and is referred to as the Maiden of the Matsu. After the castle was built, a law was passed forbidding any girl to dance in the streets of Matsu because the hill Oshiruyama would shudder and the castle would shake from top to bottom. Although this practice has not been continued, it's just crazy to think that this is actually done, and some of the pillars in Japan actually contain real human sacrifice. At our number 7 spot, we have the Kisaragi Station. In 2004, a 2chan user named Hasumi posted on a thread asking for help because she got on the wrong train at Shinhamatsu Station. This was rather strange because she usually caught the same train after work, and trains in the station only go in one direction. She started getting really anxious because she remembered the stops only being a few minutes between each station, but on this specific train ride, they were just much longer. They even went through a tunnel, but her usual line didn't go through any sort of tunnel. She walked to the front car to ask the conductor for help, but the curtain was closed and no one answered. She then knocked on the door, but that's when the train suddenly stopped at Kisaragi Station. As she left the train, she was filled with huge anxiety and fear, but as she tried to go back, the train door shut on her. As all this was happening, she was messaging people on this discussion board on 4chan about the station, but when they all replied, they had said that no such station existed in Japan. She decided to exit the station and walk back along the tracks, even back through the tunnel she had gone through under earlier. She reported strange sounds like drums in the distance, and even a voice telling her that walking on the tracks is extremely dangerous. As she grew more afraid, she turned back to go around, but she saw an old man with one leg, which then slowly disappeared right after. When she finally got out of the tunnel, a man came up offering help and to drive her to the nearest station. This is when she posted on the thread for the very last time, saying that the man was muttering to himself, then her phone died, and she was never heard from the thread again. At our number 6 spot, we have the 1932 Shirokiya department store. On December 16, 1932, tragedy struck the Shirokiya department store in Japan during their year-end Christmas theme sale. The festive decorations of the season turned into a nightmare as a fire broke out at the toy section just a few minutes before the store was about to open. The fire quickly spread to floors 4 and 8, filling the staircase with smoke and cutting off major escape routes. This left many shoppers and employees stranded on the upper floors, desperate for a way to find safety. Some of those who were trapped made makeshift ropes from clothing or curtains and climbed down to safety. Others were not so lucky. They instead fell to their deaths or even suffocated in the smoke-filled building. In total, 14 people lost their lives and 67 were injured in the Shirokiya department store fire. In the aftermath of the fire, stories and legends began to circulate about the tragedy. One particularly interesting legend related relates to the traditional dress of the saleswoman in the store. At the time, it was customary for women who wore traditional kimonos to go without panties. According to this urban legend, some of the saleswomen in kimonos who were trapped on the upper floors chose not to jump the safety nets that had been set up below because they were just ashamed to not be seen below without underwear. While there is no real proof that this legend actually existed, it is said to have led on to an increase in the popularity of Western style panties in Japan, which is both odd and kind of terrifying at the same time. I don't know what to think. In the hump for our list, we have the ghost taxi passengers. After the devastating 3/11 earthquake and tsunami that hit the northeastern Japan coast, sightings of yurei or ghosts have increased drastically in cities like Ishinomaki in Miyagi Prefecture. As these spirits have not been properly put to rest, some may have not even been aware that they are dead and are often searching for a way home. As a result, taxi drivers all over this place have long been subject to ghostly encounters in the form of passengers trying to go home or to a very specific place. This has almost become a norm for taxi drivers around Japan to be asked if they had ever had a ghostly passenger before. Tohoku Gaon University conducted a study called the Awakened Spiritual Earthquake Studies that involve interviews with more than 100 Ishinomaki taxi drivers who had supernatural encounters. Many drivers reported picking up passengers who seemed to be wet or wearing winter coats in the summer, months after the disaster in the cold months of March. Most drivers reported running the meter and having to pay the fee for the vanished passenger. One particular driver reported a chilling story about a man in winter clothing whom he picked up in the summer who asked to be taken to an address that had been destroyed. The driver asked if he was sure that was the address as it was just a vacant lot, to which the passenger replied by asking, "Am I dead?" Number 4, the Red Room Curse. The Red Room Curse is a Japanese urban legend that originated from an interactive Adobe Flash horror animation uploaded to GeoCities in the late 1990s. The legend tells the story of a pop-up ad that appears on the victim's computer screen, displaying a black text that reads, "Do you like?" on a red background. After trying to close the pop-up, it reappears with a new message that reads, "Do you like the Red Room?" before the screen just turns completely red, displaying a list of names of the Red Room victims. This is when the victim senses a mysterious presence behind them before losing consciousness and later being found dead in a room with blood-painted walls. The legend gained notoriety in 2004 when a 12-year-old schoolgirl was murdered by an 11-year-old classmate known as Girl A in Sasebo. It was reported that Girl A was a fan of the Red Room Curse animation and had the video bookmarked on her computer at the time of her death. And of course, this incident led to widespread discussion and fear for this curse. Then in 2016, a short film titled The Red Room Curse was released and was inspired by this urban legend, of course. The film brings the legend to life and is sure to give anyone who watched it a chilling experience. So if you guys kind of want to know what this Red Room is about, watch this film because it'll give you all the insights. Number 3, the Ushi-Oni. The world of Japanese mythology is full of terrifying creatures, but none are quite as fearsome as the Ushi-Oni, also known as the Ox Demon. This class of monster is found near bodies of water and is known for its savage and cruel nature. Although there are different types of Ushi-Oni, they all share similar traits that make them unmistakable. Perhaps the most terrifying thing about these monsters is their insatiable appetite for human flesh. Then on top of that, they breathe toxic poison, making them even more deadly. The Ushi-Oni is not to be trifled with as well, and many people who have encountered one have not lived to tell the tale. It is worth mentioning that the Ushi-Oni is not always a solitary creature either. They are known to work together with other yokai or supernatural creatures such as the Nura-Onna and the Iso-Onna. These yokai use their charms to lure unsuspecting men towards the water, where the Ushi-Oni is waiting to pounce and make a meal of its victims. The appearance of the Ushi-Oni is quite unique and interesting as well. Much of them resemble an ox from the head up, but their body is a demonic horror. However, there are many variations on this theme, including one with a spider-like body, another one with a cat-like body, and even one with the body of a kimono-clad human. Pretty terrifying. Number 2, the cursed Kleenex commercial. In 1986, Kleenex released a commercial in Japan that sparked a series of disturbing urban legends. The ad featured a woman in white and an ogre-looking child sitting on a pile of hay and enjoying Kleenex tissues, all while singing the song "It's a Fine Day" by Jane and Barden played in the background. Almost instantly after the commercial was aired, TV stations and Kleenex corporate allegedly began receiving complaints about the ad, with many people finding unsettling. Some claim that the entire film crew met untimely deaths in freak accidents following this, while others said that the child in the commercial had passed away immediately after filming this. There are also rumors that the actress Kaiko Matsuzaka had either passed away or even been committed to a psychiatric hospital. Others claim that when the ad came on at night, the singer's voice in the commercial transformed from that of a young soprano to a raspy old woman's. And the ad was so unsettling to the public that Kleenex eventually pulled it off air and replaced it with a completely different one. At our number 1 spot, we have the Kaikoji Temple. This place has nothing really scary about it, except the fact that it has mummified bodies on display. Okay, maybe it's a bit scary. These mummified figures are known as the Shukumbutsu, also known as the living Buddha or Buddha mummies. These are in fact real people, and these are the bodies of the priests who belong to the Shingon sect of Japanese Buddhism. All these mummies we see are priests who made the drastic decision in self-mummification. And I don't know what it is, but there's something about a body that being fully intact for hundreds of years that makes it so creepy. The process for the mummification would actually be very intense as well, and for the first 1,000 days, and it would go a little something like this. For the first 1,000 days, they would do extreme fasting and exercising. Then on the next 1,000 days, they would reduce their diet to a bare minimum in order to fit in this thing. The last 1,000 days would consist of entombment. Basically, many would bury themselves alive, essentially while in a deep state of meditation in order to reach enlightenment. At our number 10 spot, we have the Mongolian death worm. The Gobi Desert, located between Mongolia and China, is said to have the Mongolian death worm, otherwise known as the intestine worm due to its appearance of being fleshy and red in color. This 2 to 7 feet long creature has the ability to spit out venomous liquid out of its mouth, and if you even get close enough to touch the creature, it's believed that the entire body is covered in this sticky, poisonous substance that will kill you just on touch alone. And if that wasn't enough, it can even electrocute you in the same way you can. While movies of the creature depicted as this large, colossal being, is believed to be a lot smaller at around 7 feet in its total length. But regardless, the fact that this creature can hide literally anywhere in the desert sands and come out basically whenever it wants, and it has no weaknesses, it makes it one of the most dangerous and scariest ones on this list. At our number 9 spot, we have the Deashi. This mythical creature is also known as the hanged ghost, and it's said that the people who have taken their life through hanging or have been executed that way come back and become this vengeful spirit. They claim the spirit appears as a decaying corpse with a long red tongue that hangs far out of their mouth, never going back into their mouth. And let me tell you, these guys smell horrendous as well. So you could imagine how terrifying this would be to encounter, except if you're a Kiss fan and you're used to this sticking tongue stuff. According to legend, these spirits will appear to unsuspecting people during night, usually by a tree or a building. Then they'll try to convince others to join them in the afterlife. So in China, it's best to avoid places where people have taken their life, because this is where these spirits tend to wander. If you decide to do the complete opposite, the creature will follow you around for your entire life, causing bad luck every corner of the way. At number 8 spot, we have the Aanam. The Aanam is straight out of Japanese myth. It is described to be this small goblin looking creature about the size of a child, except they're hideous. They have greasy, slimy hair, and their body is completely oily. If that didn't make you uncomfortable, maybe the fact that they use their long tongues to lick bathroom floors will. But don't worry, they won't appear in clean bathrooms, as their dirty long tongues have nothing to lick. Instead, they target bathrooms that have been neglected and are dirty. So people, do yourself and everyone a favor and clean your bathrooms. Please. They lick and devour any of the filth, grease, hair, and waste that they come across, and the Aanam also chooses to stay away from humans, but instead they creep in the darkness and multiply at rates comparable to a disease spreading. They come in both one-eyed and two-eyed variations, which only adds to the fact that these are grotesque creatures. So I stress this again, clean your bathroom so we can all avoid these type of problems, including stuff with these ugly guys. At number 7 spot, we have the Jangi, also known as the Chinese hopping vampire. The Jangi comes from a phrase meaning stiff corpse. They are psychic vampire zombies. Yes, you heard that right. Who feeds off a person's chi rather than their blood. And for those who don't know, chi is considered to be a person's life force, which means that it's the energy that flows throughout your entire body, basically giving you life in a sense. So unlike the vampires we have over here in the West, the Jangi prefers not to consume humans or our blood, and they also aren't able to walk, so they are seen hopping around with their hands out in the front of them to maintain their balance. Many believe these creatures are created following a violent death, an improper burial, use of supernatural powers, or you get bit by another one. Remember, they're vampires and zombies, so don't get it confused. This is a horror hybrid of the century. At number 6 spot, we have the Sigbin. Straight out of my home country is yet another disgusting and hideous creature. This creature is said to have the appearance of a half hornless goat and half kangaroo, but when I look at it, I think of a chupacabra, but worse. It has the ability to use its long kangaroo tail to whip others with the force, able to knock someone out. They lurk mainly in the night and are known to hunt anyone or anything they see. They will use their sharp teeth to suck out the blood out of their victims, or they will use it to seek out children to take their hearts just to use for decorations. So pretty horrible stuff, I know, I'm sorry kids. When they do walk around, they actually prefer to walk backwards with their head tucked between their legs like this. Locals in the Philippines claim that some people capture them and keep them as guardians for their property or in these very large jars. I have no idea what my people are doing, but yeah, let's not do this. In the hump of our list, we have the Jangl. These are small creatures located in Indonesia, but mainly claim their presence specifically in Java. They take on the appearance of a deformed humanoid doll with long growing hair and long nails. The doll by itself causes no harm, but when you begin to feed the doll animal blood or even human blood, it will start to work as black magic. A Jangl is believed to belong to the vampire family because of its main nourishment comes from the blood of animals or humans. The owner of the Jangl must feed the creature with a drop of their blood each and every single day. If the owner fails to do so, it is believed that their loved ones will face dire consequences. The blood must not be fed directly to the mouth of the Jangl, but instead be placed beside it. It's believed that the Jangls are the spirits of those who passed away after they had practiced black magic in order to obtain everlasting life. Except when they're met with death, the earth would refuse to accept their body, instead turning them into this hideous bloodthirsting creature. At number 4, we have the flying head. This one is definitely the strangest one on this list, but it's still scary, so bear with me. The flying head, or the Shurubotoshi, is one of Japan's most craziest mythical creatures because it's literally just a floating head. It's believed to be an ancient deity that literally is just a flying head that goes around and eats people. They prefer to attack humans by surprise by hiding on the top of trees or in places where you're completely alone. When they catch up to you, they will drop quickly to the ground like a stone, either squishing you to death or trapping you in its mouth to chew you right after. Either way, you will pass away. If you do manage to evade them, they will stop at nothing to get you, and will do so while laughing uncontrollably, which only makes this encounter that much more terrifying. At number 3 spot, we have the Taotie. These creatures from Chinese mythology are definitely one of the most hideous looking creatures from this list of creatures, and we know how beautiful China makes some of these creatures, so this one was just a surprise. They are considered to be one of the 4 evil creatures of the world due to its malevolence and destruction as a creature. If you ever wanted to see these boys in action, depiction of this creature would appear mainly on bronze artifacts, but that first glimpse of them on that movie was all we needed to know that these creatures are not good. At number 2 spot, we have the Tangu. If you ever seen this emoji, then you know what a Tangu somewhat looks like. These creatures live in the mountains and appear to have large feathery wings and wearing a monk robe. Based on the emoji, you already know that their face is red with a long nose and the head of a bird. Originally, the Tangu were seen as evil spirits that caused pure destruction and chaos everywhere they went. This was because Buddhist practices showed that the Tangu were demons and tricksters who opposed Buddha. Tangu were considered demons of death and destruction by Buddhists, but gradually softened into troublesome protectors of forests and mountains, which is the role they continue to play in Japanese folklore. I mean, they look pretty cool and I see it all the time every time I go on my keyboard, and it would be nice if they use them in a video game or something because they're pretty cool looking creatures. At number 1 spot, we're the Nian. To end our point, we got yet another Chinese mythical creature because there are just too many not to mention. The story of the Nian goes that they would feast on human flesh every single New Year's Day. On this day, they would come out of their hiding place in the mountains and raid villages, eat their crops, and when that wasn't enough, they would attack the humans. Except they would begin to notice that the creature would run away by the end of the night when they started to celebrate New Year's. They started to believe it was because they used a lot of the color red, which was the same color as the Nian, which could have acted as intimidation. They also noticed that fire and a lot of noise would scare away the creature, so every single year the festivals got bigger and louder to frighten the beast away for good. The Nian is described as being a flat-faced lion with the body of a bull and the horn of a unicorn, and ever since the Nian has been used during the festivals to commemorate the once terrifying creature.